Captain Daiho stood on the bridge of his research vessel, staring at the ancient ruins floating in the void. The structure was enormous, carved from a single asteroid that had been hollowed out millennia ago. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly in the darkness of space. His ship, the Morning Star, had traveled for 3 months to reach this remote corner of the galaxy. The Vraxian Council had given him a simple mission: investigate the ruins and report back. Nothing more, nothing less. Hana worked at the navigation console, her fingers dancing across the controls. She had been with Daiho for 5 years, and she knew every mood of the captain. Right now he was excited. She could tell by the way he leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen. The ruins had that effect on people. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Minho entered the bridge carrying a data tablet. He was the ship's xenoarchaeologist, an expert in ancient civilizations. His job was to study dead cultures and figure out what they had been like when they were alive. He loved his work, even though most people found it boring. To Minho, every ruin was a puzzle waiting to be solved. "Captain, I've translated some of the symbols," Minho said. His voice was calm, but Daiho could hear the excitement underneath. "These ruins are older than we thought. Much older. And there's something else. The database mentions a species we've never heard of before." Daiho turned to face him. "What species?" "They're called humans," Minho replied. He tapped his tablet and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed a bipedal creature with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. The image was rough, reconstructed from damaged data, but the basic shape was clear. According to these records, humans were incredible. They could survive in environments that would kill most other species. They adapted to any world they found, and they had endurance like nothing else in the galaxy. Hana looked up from her console. "That sounds like a myth. No species can do all that." "That's what I thought too," Minho said. "But these records are consistent. Multiple civilizations wrote about humans. They described the same abilities, the same characteristics. Either humans were real, or someone created a very convincing legend." Daiho studied the hologram. The human looked ordinary, even weak compared to most spacefaring species. Vraxians were taller and stronger. The Keltorians had natural armor. The Draviks could breathe in toxic atmospheres. What made humans special? What else does it say? Minho scrolled through his tablet. Not much. Most of the data is corrupted. But there are fragments. Stories about humans exploring the galaxy thousands of years ago. Tales of their ships, their weapons, their colonies. And then nothing. The records just stop. It's like humans vanished completely. Or they never existed in the first place, Hana suggested. Ancient cultures loved their myths. Gods, monsters, impossible heroes. Maybe humans were just another story. Daiho wanted to believe that. It made sense. The galaxy was full of legends about perfect warriors and wise teachers from the past. Every civilization had them. But something about these records felt different. They were too detailed, too specific. "Send everything to the council," he ordered. "Let them decide." 3 days later, Admiral Jiwoo responded to their report. Her face appeared on the viewscreen, looking annoyed. Jiwoo was a career military officer, practical and no nonsense. She had no patience for mysteries or legends. "Captain Daiho, I've reviewed your findings. The council has concluded that these humans are mythological, propaganda created by extinct civilizations to scare their enemies." "Admiral, the evidence suggests—" Daiho began. "The evidence suggests nothing," Jiwoo interrupted. "We've seen this before. Ancient races love to invent powerful protectors or terrible threats. It gave them comfort or control. Humans are no different than the sky gods of Trellis or the shadow kings of Mordax. They're stories, Captain. Nothing more." Daiho felt frustration rising in his chest. He knew Jiwoo was probably right, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. What about the consistency of the records? Multiple civilizations describe the same species. "Shared mythology," Jiwoo said dismissively. "Cultures influence each other. Stories spread. That's basic history, Captain. Now finish your survey and return home. The council has more important matters to deal with." The transmission ended. Daiho stood in silence, staring at the empty screen. Hana and Minho exchanged glances. They both knew the captain well enough to see he wasn't satisfied with the Admiral's explanation. "She might be right," Hana said gently. "We've been out here too long. Maybe we're seeing patterns that aren't really there." Minho wasn't ready to give up. "Every myth has roots in truth. That's what my professors taught me. Someone somewhere saw something real. The story might change over time, but it starts with reality. Then where are they? Hana challenged. If humans were real, if they were as powerful as these records claim, where did they go? Why haven't we seen any trace of them in modern times? It was a fair question. Minho had no answer. He could only shrug and return to his work, studying the ancient texts and hoping to find something that would prove his theory. Yuna, the ship's science officer, had been working quietly at her station during the entire conversation. Now she spoke up. Captain, I've detected some unusual energy signatures near the ruins. Daiho walked over to her console. What kind of signatures? I'm not sure, Yuna admitted. They don't match anything in our database. But they're fresh, Captain. These readings are recent, maybe only a few weeks old. Something was here not long ago. That got everyone's attention. Hana pulled up the sensor logs. Minho set down his tablet. Even Daiho felt a chill run down his spine. If something had been here recently, it meant they weren't alone in this remote sector. Could it be raiders? Hana asked. Pirates sometimes hide in abandoned sectors. The signature is too clean, Yuna said. Pirates use old ships with dirty engines. This is something else. Something advanced. Daiho made a decision. Hana, take us closer to the ruins. Yuna, keep scanning. I want to know what was here. He paused, then added, and activate the defense systems, just in case. The Morning Star moved slowly toward the ancient structure. Its sensors swept the area, searching for any sign of danger. For an hour, they found nothing. The ruins were empty, silent, unchanged by time. Daiho began to think Yuna's readings had been a false alarm. Then Hana gasped. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting something. It's big. Very big. On screen, Daiho ordered. The view screen changed to show deep space. At first, Daiho saw nothing unusual. Just stars and darkness. Then he saw it. A ripple in space itself, like heat waves rising from hot ground. The ripple grew larger, spreading across the void. It was a spatial distortion, something tearing through the fabric of reality. What is that? Minho whispered. Yuna's hands flew across her console. It's a warp signature, but unlike anything I've ever seen. The energy readings are off the scale. Whatever is coming through, it's moving faster than our fastest ships. The distortion expanded, and suddenly space tore open. Ships emerged, hundreds of them appearing in perfect formation. They were sleek and deadly, each one bristling with weapons. Their hulls were dark gray, almost black, and they moved with a precision that spoke of advanced technology and skilled crews. Daiho had never seen ships like these. They weren't Vraxian. They weren't Keltorian or Dravix or any other known species. They were completely alien, completely unknown, and there were so many of them. His small research vessel was hopelessly outmatched. Hana, prepare to retreat, Daiho said, trying to keep his voice steady. Yuna, try to identify those ships. Before anyone could respond, a transmission came through. The communication system activated automatically, and a voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect Vraxian, with no accent, no hesitation. The speaker knew their language as well as they did. Vraxian vessel Morning Star, this is Commander Sora of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. You are in violation of protected space. Power down your weapons and stand by for inspection. Do not attempt to flee. Do not attempt to transmit. Comply immediately and you will not be harmed. Silence fell over the bridge. Everyone stared at each other in shock. Minho's mouth hung open. Hana's hands froze over her controls. Yuna's face had gone pale. Daiho felt his heart pounding in his chest. Did she say human? Hana finally whispered. Yes, Minho breathed. She did. The legends had been true. Humans were real. And they had returned. The human fleet surrounded the Morning Star within minutes. Daiho watched helplessly as the alien warships took up positions around his vessel. They moved with such precision that it seemed choreographed, like a dance performed 1,000 times before. Each ship knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. There was no confusion, no hesitation. Just perfect, terrifying efficiency. Should I power down the weapons? Hana asked. Her voice was tight with fear. She had been in dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. The human ships made the Morning Star look like a toy. Daiho nodded slowly. Do it, we have no choice. He knew their weapons would be useless anyway. The Morning Star was a research vessel, not a warship. Its guns were designed to scare off pirates, nothing more. Against hundreds of advanced military vessels, they might as well throw rocks. Yuna studied her sensors, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Captain, these ships are incredible. Their power output is 10 times higher than our best warships. And their weapons. I can't even identify half of them. The technology is generations ahead of ours. How is that possible? Minho asked. If humans existed thousands of years ago, their technology should be ancient, outdated. How did they get so advanced? Maybe they never stopped advancing, Yuna suggested quietly. Maybe they've been out here this whole time building, improving, evolving. While we thought they were myths, they were becoming something far beyond us. Another transmission came through. This time a hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a human male, tall and lean, wearing a dark uniform with silver insignia. His face was calm but hard, his eyes sharp and intelligent. This was Admiral Jihoon, commander of the human fleet. Captain Deho, Jihoon said, his Vraxian flawless. I am Admiral Jihoon. Welcome to human space. I apologize for the aggressive greeting, but we needed to ensure you were not hostile. He paused, studying them through the hologram. You seem surprised to see us, Deho found his voice. Surprised is an understatement, Admiral. We thought humans were a myth. A legend from ancient times, Jihoon smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. Yes, we know. We encourage that belief. It served our purposes to remain hidden. He gestured behind him, where the vast human fleet hung in space like a steel constellation. But circumstances have changed. It is time for humanity to be seen again. Why now? Deho asked. Why reveal yourselves after thousands of years? Because a threat is coming, Jihoon replied. His expression grew darker. A threat that will destroy everything in this galaxy if it is not stopped. But we will discuss that later. First, we need to address your presence here. These ruins are protected human sites. You are trespassing. Minho stepped forward. Admiral, we meant no offense. We didn't know these ruins belonged to anyone. The Vraxian Council sent us to investigate them as part of our archaeological survey program. The Vraxian Council, Jihoon repeated slowly. Yes, we know all about your council. We know about your government, your military, your culture, your history. We have been watching you for a very long time, Minho. We know everything. The words sent a chill through the bridge. Deho realized what Jihoon was saying. Humans had been observing them for centuries, maybe longer. They had studied Vraxian civilization like scientists studying insects. They knew every secret, every weakness, every strength. The Vraxians had been completely unaware they were being watched. Hana's hands trembled slightly on her console. How long have you been watching us? Since your species developed spaceflight, Jihoon answered simply. We watched you take your first steps into the void. We watched you discover other worlds, make contact with other species, build your civilization. We have always been there, invisible, patient, waiting. Waiting for what? Deho demanded. For you to be ready, Jihoon said. For the galaxy to be ready. We left this region of space long ago to allow younger species to develop on their own. We did not want to interfere, did not want to control you. We wanted you to grow naturally, to find your own path. But now the time for isolation has ended. A new voice interrupted. Admiral Jihoon, this is Communications Officer Salman. We have a situation. The Vraxian government is attempting to contact the Morning Star. Jihoon nodded. Let the transmission through. It is time they learned the truth. Admiral Jiwoo's face appeared on another screen. Her expression changed from annoyance to shock when she saw the human fleet on the sensors. Behind her, the Vraxian command center was in chaos. Officers shouted, alarms rang, and screens flashed with warnings. Captain Deho, report. What is happening? Our sensors are detecting hundreds of unknown vessels in your sector. Are you under attack? Before Deho could answer, Jihoon stepped into view of the transmission. Admiral Jiwoo, I am Admiral Jihoon of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. Your captain and crew are safe. We mean them no harm. Jiwoo stared at him. Human? That's impossible. Humans don't exist. Clearly we do, Jihoon replied calmly. And we have much to discuss with your government. These ruins your ship is investigating belong to humanity. They contain artifacts and data that we left behind when we departed this region 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago? Jiwoo looked stunned. Then the records were true? Humans really existed? You really explored this galaxy? We did more than explore, Jihoon said. We seeded this galaxy with technology and knowledge. We helped primitive species take their first steps toward civilization. The Vraxians, the Keltorians, the Draviks, dozens of other races. You all benefited from human intervention. Minho's eyes went wide. You're saying humans created our civilization? Not created, Ji-hoon corrected. Guided, assisted, we gave you tools and knowledge, but you built your own societies. We were teachers, not masters. When we judged you ready to stand alone, we left. We removed all trace of our presence and withdrew to the outer reaches of the galaxy. Tae-hyun, the Morning Star's tactical officer, had been silent until now. He was a military man, trained to assess threats, and what he saw on his screens terrified him. Admiral Jiwoo, their weapons are far beyond ours. A single one of their ships could destroy an entire fleet. We have no defense against them. Ji-hoon heard this and nodded. Your tactical officer is correct. But you need not fear us. We have no desire to conquer or control. We want only what is ours. Access to these ruins and the artifacts they contain. And if we refuse? Jiwoo asked, though she already knew the answer. You won't refuse, Ji-hoon said simply, because we are about to demonstrate why you need us. He gave a command in his own language. The human fleet moved, splitting into groups. Half of them remained around the Morning Star. The other half accelerated away, moving impossibly fast. Within seconds, they vanished from the sensors. Where are they going? Hana asked nervously. Ji-hoon smiled that cold smile again. Admiral Jiwoo, check your sensors. Your military has dispatched a battle group to this sector. 3 cruisers and 12 destroyers, if I'm not mistaken. They were sent to intercept us to protect Captain Daeho's ship. Jiwoo's face went pale. How do you know that? That deployment was classified. We know everything, Ji-hoon repeated patiently. We have been inside your networks for decades. We read your classified reports before your own generals do. As I said, we have been watching. Now observe what happens when your battle group encounters my ships. On the tactical display, Daeho watched as the Vraxian battle group appeared on the edge of the sector. They were powerful ships, the pride of the Vraxian military. Then the human vessels arrived. They moved around the Vraxian ships like sharks circling prey. Watch, Ji-hoon said quietly. The human ships fired, but not with weapons. They released some kind of energy pulse. Every Vraxian vessel went dark simultaneously. Their engines died. Their weapons powered down. Their shields collapsed. The mighty battle group was helpless, floating dead in space. We did not destroy them, Ji-hoon explained. We merely disabled them. In 30 minutes, their systems will reboot and they will be able to return home. No one is hurt. No one is dead. But they are completely helpless. This is the difference between our civilizations, Admiral Jiwoo. We can defeat your entire military without firing a single shot. Do you understand now why you should not refuse our request? Silence filled both bridges. The truth was undeniable. Humanity had returned and they were unstoppable. 2 days after the encounter with the human fleet, Minho found himself inside the ancient ruins with a human archaeologist named Seojin. The human woman moved through the corridors with confidence as if she had been there before. In a way, she had. Her ancestors had built this place thousands of years ago. Your team did good work, Seojin said, examining Minho's translation notes. Most scholars would have dismissed these texts as mythology. You took them seriously. That shows wisdom. Minho felt both proud and embarrassed. I almost gave up. My own government told me I was wasting time on fairy tales. That's what we wanted them to think, Seojin replied. We erased ourselves from history deliberately. We removed evidence, corrupted records, planted false information. We made sure that anyone who found the truth would be dismissed as a fool or a dreamer. She touched a wall panel, and ancient lights flickered to life. We wanted to be forgotten. Why? Minho asked. Why hide for so long? Seojin led him deeper into the ruins. They passed chambers filled with strange equipment, storage rooms with sealed containers, and hallways covered in more of those glowing symbols. Because we learned a hard lesson, she explained. 5,000 years ago, humans spread across this galaxy. We explored, we built, we created, and we helped other species rise from primitive conditions to spacefaring civilizations. We gave you technology, taught you science, showed you how to reach the stars. That sounds noble, Minho said. It was, Seojin agreed. But it also made you dependent. Species we helped began to see humans as gods or masters. They stopped thinking for themselves. They waited for us to solve their problems. We realized we were doing more harm than good. So we made a decision. We would leave. We would give the galaxy back to you and let you develop on your own. They entered a massive chamber at the heart of the ruins. In the center stood a pillar of crystalline material that pulsed with soft blue light. Around it, holographic displays showed star charts, technical diagrams, and historical records. Seojin activated one of the displays. This is the archive, she said. Everything humanity did in this galaxy is recorded here. Our colonies, our expeditions, our contacts with other species. All of it. The hologram showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of markers scattered across it. We built outposts on hundreds of worlds. We left technology caches for emerging civilizations to find. We established monitoring stations to watch over the species we had helped. Minho stared at the map in awe. This is incredible. This proves everything. The Vraxian Council needs to see this. They will, Seojin promised. But first you need to understand why we've returned. She changed the display. The pleasant blue light turned red, and the star map showed a dark region at the edge of the galaxy. Something is coming. Something we fought before, a very long time ago. The hologram showed monstrous shapes, organic ships that looked more like living creatures than machines. They moved in massive swarms, consuming everything in their path. Planets, stations, entire fleets disappeared into those dark clouds. What are those? Minho whispered. We call them the Swarm, Seojin said grimly. They come from another galaxy, traveling through dark space between the stars. They are a hive intelligence, millions of organisms sharing one mind, and they have only one purpose, to consume. They eat entire worlds, break them down into raw materials, and use those materials to build more of themselves. How do you fight something like that? We barely did, Seojin admitted. 1,000 years ago, the Swarm attacked human space. We fought them for centuries. Billions died. Hundreds of worlds were lost. We pushed them back, but at terrible cost. After the war, humanity was exhausted. That's another reason we left this galaxy. We needed time to recover, to rebuild. Minho felt cold fear spreading through his body. And now they're coming back? Yes, Seojin confirmed. Our deep space sensors detected them 3 years ago. They're moving toward this galaxy again. They'll arrive within months. That's why we're here. We need to prepare the galaxy for war. And we need allies. Back on the Morning Star, Kyung examined human technology with fascination and growing concern. The human engineer who worked with him, a man named Daewon, had shown him schematics for their weapon systems, their power cores, their shields. Every single piece of human technology was decades or centuries ahead of Vraxian equivalents. How is this possible? Kyung asked, studying a diagram of a quantum power core. We've been advancing for thousands of years and we're nowhere near this level. Daewon shrugged. You had peace, mostly. A few wars here and there, but nothing serious. Humanity didn't have that luxury. We've been fighting for survival since we left Earth. Pirates, hostile aliens, natural disasters, and of course the Swarm. War drives innovation. Desperation drives innovation. We had both. Still, Kyung protested, some of this technology seems almost impossible. These dimensional drives, for example, they fold space itself. Our scientists say that's purely theoretical. It was theoretical for us too, Daewon said with a slight smile, until we made it work. That's the thing about humans. We don't accept impossible. We just keep trying until we find a way. On the bridge, Yuna was having a similar conversation with human scientist Nari. They were comparing biological data, and Yuna was shocked by what she found. Your people have redundant organs? Yuna asked, reading the medical scans Nari had shared. 2 hearts? Backup kidneys? Regenerating tissue? Not all humans, Nari explained. Only those who've been enhanced. We call it bioaugmentation. Over the centuries, we've learned to improve our own bodies. We can survive in environments that would kill baseline humans. We heal faster, live longer, think quicker. Isn't that dangerous? Yuna asked. Modifying your own biology? Very dangerous, Nari agreed. Many early attempts failed, but we perfected the process over generations. Now it's standard for military personnel and deep space explorers. We need these advantages to survive in the void. Yuna looked at her with new respect and a little fear. You've turned yourselves into living weapons. We turned ourselves into survivors, Nari corrected gently. There's a difference. Admiral Jiwoo sat in her office on the Vraxian homeworld, reviewing the reports from Captain Daeho's ship. Around her, the Vraxian Council debated what to do about the humans. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to surrender immediately. We can't fight them, said Counselor Minsu. You saw what they did to our battle group. They disabled 15 ships without breaking a sweat. Our entire military would be crushed. But can we trust them? Demanded Counselor Heejin. They hid from us for thousands of years. They spied on us, infiltrated our networks. watched us like we were animals in a zoo. What kind of allies do that? The kind who are trying to protect us, Jiwoo said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. I've studied their records. Everything they've told us is true. They did help our ancestors. They did withdraw to let us develop freely. And this threat they're warning us about, this swarm, it's real. Our own deep space probes have detected unusual movement beyond the galactic rim. Then what do you suggest? Asked the council leader. Jiwoo stood up. We accept their alliance. We share what we know, learn from them, prepare for war, because if the humans are this worried about the swarm, then we should be terrified. Deep inside the ruins, Minho asked Seojin one final question. Why did you choose now to reveal the truth? Why not wait until the swarm actually arrived? Seojin looked at him with sad eyes. Because last time humanity fought alone. We almost lost. This time we need the entire galaxy united. We need every ship, every weapon, every brave soul willing to stand against the darkness. She put a hand on his shoulder. We need you, Minho, all of you. The question is, will you stand with us? Minho thought about his people, his world, his civilization. He thought about the children who would grow up under the shadow of the swarm if they failed. He thought about the ruins around him, built by humans who had cared enough about other species to help them reach the stars. Yes, he said firmly. We'll stand with you, Seojin smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had seen from any human. Then there's hope, she said, because together we might actually survive. The summit took place on Vraxia Prime, the homeworld of the Vraxian people. Representatives from a dozen species gathered in the Grand Council chamber, a massive hall with walls of crystalline material that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. It should have been a moment of celebration, different civilizations coming together. Instead, fear filled the room. Admiral Ji-hoon stood at the center podium. Behind him, a holographic display showed images that made even the bravest warriors feel sick. The swarm approached like a storm of teeth and claws, a wave of destruction that would consume everything in its path. This is what you face, Ji-hoon said, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. The swarm is not an army. It is not a nation. It is a force of nature, a hunger given form. It does not negotiate. It does not retreat. It only consumes. The display showed planet after planet being stripped bare. The swarm's bioships descended like locusts, breaking down everything organic and inorganic, converting matter into more ships, more weapons, more hunger. Cities that had stood for millennia vanished in hours. Oceans boiled away. Atmospheres were consumed. Nothing remained but dead rocks floating in space. How do we fight this? Asked Ambassador Yoonji, the Vraxian diplomat. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped the edge of her seat tightly. With unity, Ji-hoon answered. With courage. And with human experience. We fought the swarm before. We learned their patterns, their weaknesses. We know how they think, how they move, how they adapt. That knowledge is our greatest weapon. Commander Sora stepped forward. She was younger than Ji-hoon, but carried herself with the same confidence. The swarm operates as a hive mind, billions of individual organisms controlled by a central intelligence we call the Queen. Kill the Queen and the swarm collapses. But reaching her is nearly impossible. She hides in the center of the swarm, protected by millions of bioships. Nearly impossible is not impossible, said Admiral Jiwoo. She had been transformed by recent events, moving from skeptic to believer to warrior. You did it before. You can do it again. Last time it took humanity 1,000 years and cost us billions of lives, Ji-hoon said bluntly. We won, but barely. This time the swarm is larger, stronger. It has fed on other galaxies, growing more powerful with each conquest. We cannot win alone. That is why we need you. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species wanted to flee, to abandon the galaxy and find safety elsewhere. Others wanted to fortify their homeworlds and hope the swarm would pass them by. A few, the bravest or most foolish, talked of glory and honor in battle. Yoonji raised her hand for silence. When the room quieted, she spoke clearly. Admiral Ji-hoon, what do you need from us? Everything, Ji-hoon answered simply. Your ships, your soldiers, your resources. We will combine our fleets into one unified force. Human technology and tactics, Vraxian manufacturing and numbers, Keltorian shields, Dravix fighters. Together we might have a chance. And who commands this unified force? Asked a Keltorian general suspiciously. Joint Command, Sora interjected. Admiral Jiwoo will lead Vraxian forces. Admiral Ji-hoon will command human contingents. Each species retains authority over their own ships but operates under a unified strategy. It was a compromise. And like all compromises, nobody was completely happy with it. But it was better than the alternative. Slowly, reluctantly, the representatives agreed. The alliance was formed. Training began immediately. Human pilot Gyong found herself working with Vraxian fighter squadrons, teaching them tactics that seemed insane by conventional standards. "You want us to fly directly at the enemy?" asked one Vraxian pilot incredulously. "That's suicide." "It's aggressive," Gyong corrected. "The swarm expects you to maintain distance, to use your range advantage. When you charge instead, it confuses them for a few seconds. Those seconds are enough to get inside their formation and cause chaos." She demonstrated on the simulator, her fighter weaving through enemy fire with movements that looked impossible. "Besides, human fighters are built to take damage. You won't die as easily as you think." The Vraxian pilots watched in awe as Gyong's simulated fighter absorbed hits that would have destroyed their vessels, then kept fighting. Human engineering was impressive, but their tactics were terrifying. "Your people fight like you have nothing to lose," one pilot observed. Gyong smiled grimly. "We fight like we have everything to lose." "There's a difference." While pilots trained in space, intelligence officer Bora worked with human analysts to decode swarm communications. It was difficult work. The swarm didn't use language as other species understood it. They communicated through biological signals, chemical markers, and patterns that were more like instinct than thought. "We're seeing increased activity along the Galactic Rim," Bora reported to Jiwoo and Jihoon. "The swarm is sending scout organisms ahead of the main force. They're testing our defenses, gathering information." "Have any scouts made it through?" Jiwoo asked. "Two," Bora admitted. "They infiltrated neutral space 3 weeks ago. We tracked them to uninhabited systems and destroyed them, but not before they transmitted data back to the swarm." Jihoon cursed in his native language. "Then they know we're here." "They know we're preparing. Does it matter?" Jiwoo asked. "You said the swarm doesn't negotiate, doesn't retreat. Knowing about us won't change their strategy." "No," Jihoon agreed, "but it might change their timing. They could accelerate their attack if they perceive us as a threat." His prediction proved accurate. 2 days later, long-range sensors detected the swarm's vanguard entering galactic space. They were months ahead of schedule. Captain Deho volunteered his ship for reconnaissance. The Morning Star was fast and equipped with excellent sensors, perfect for scouting missions. Jihoon assigned human scout Young-ho to accompany them. They found the swarm's vanguard in a dead system, one that had been abandoned centuries ago. What they saw there would haunt their dreams. "By the ancestors," Hana whispered, the swarm had taken over the entire system. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid had been converted into a massive biofactory. Living structures grew on dead worlds, pulsing with obscene life. Ships spawned from organic wombs, fully formed and ready for war. The system had become a nightmare, a factory of death producing weapons by the millions. "They're building an invasion force," Young-ho said, his voice tight. "This is just the first wave. Once they have enough ships, they'll sweep across the galaxy like wildfire." "How long do we have?" Deho asked. Yuna ran calculations on her console. Her hands trembled as she worked. "Weeks, maybe less. Once they reach critical mass, they'll attack." They reported back to the fleet. Emergency orders went out. The Alliance assembled faster than anyone thought possible. Hundreds of ships from a dozen species gathered at the rally point, forming a defensive line between the swarm and inhabited space. Deho stood on his bridge and watched the fleet assemble. Human warships with their dark hulls and deadly weapons, Vraxian cruisers massive and powerful, Keltorian defenders with shields that could withstand almost anything. Dravix interceptors, fast and agile. It was the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Will it be enough?" Hana asked quietly. Deho didn't know how to answer. The swarm was enormous, countless ships spawning every hour. The Alliance was powerful, but were they powerful enough? On the human flagship, Jihoon addressed his commanders. "This is what we've prepared for. This is why we returned. Not to conquer, not to rule, but to stand with our allies against the darkness." He looked at each of them in turn. "Humanity has faced extinction before. We survived. We endured. We will do so again, and this time we're not alone." Sergeant Jae-hyun, a human marine who had fought in dozens of battles, checked his weapons one final time. Around him, his squad did the same. They were calm, professional, ready. They had seen war before. They knew what was coming. A young Vraxian soldier watched them with amazement. "Aren't you afraid?" he asked. Jae-hyun looked at him and smiled slightly. Terrified. But fear doesn't matter. What matters is standing your ground when the enemy comes. What matters is protecting the people behind you. What matters is doing your duty even when you're scared. He clapped the young soldier on the shoulder. You'll do fine. Just remember, humans don't quit, ever, and neither will you. The sensors screamed warnings. The swarm had launched its attack. Millions of bioships poured out of the dead system, blotting out the stars. They came like a tsunami, unstoppable and terrible. All ships, Jihoon broadcasted across all frequencies. This is Admiral Jihoon. Remember why we fight. Remember who we protect. Remember that we are not alone. He paused. For the galaxy, for our homes, for humanity, engage. The Alliance fleet surged forward to meet them. The final battle had begun. The battle erupted across 100 star systems simultaneously. The swarm didn't attack in a single wave. They came from multiple directions at once, forcing the Alliance to split their forces. It was brilliant strategy from a mindless enemy, proof that the Queen's intelligence was vast and terrible. Commander Wonshik coordinated the defense from the human flagship. His console displayed tactical information from across the battle space, showing thousands of ships engaged in desperate combat. Red icons represented swarm vessels. Blue icons were Alliance forces. The red outnumbered the blue by terrifying margins. Sector 7 is collapsing, reported a tactical officer. The Keltorian defenders can't hold. They're requesting immediate support. Send the 3rd Human Fleet, Wonshik ordered, and tell Admiral Jiwoo to reinforce with Vraxian heavy cruisers. Jiwoo's face appeared on the communication screen. Her ship was under heavy fire. Explosions visible through the viewports behind her. Wonshik, I'm dealing with my own problems here. The swarm is throwing everything at my supply lines. If they cut us off, half the fleet will run out of ammunition. Hold them, Wonshik said firmly. Those supply lines are critical. We'll send reinforcements as soon as possible. Jiwoo nodded and cut the transmission. Around her bridge, Vraxian officers worked frantically to coordinate the defense. She had been a skeptic once, had dismissed humans as myths. Now she fought alongside them, trusting them with her life and the lives of her people. Admiral, enemy bioships are regenerating damage faster than we can inflict it, reported her tactical officer. Our weapons are effective, but they just keep repairing themselves. It was the swarm's greatest advantage. Their ships were alive, capable of healing wounds and adapting to weapons. Conventional warfare couldn't stop them. But humanity had learned this lesson before. This is Commander Sora to all ships. A transmission came across all channels. Antimatter warheads are now authorized. Fire when ready. Burn them out of the sky. Human ships unleashed weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Antimatter warheads detonated among the swarm formations, releasing energy equivalent to small stars. The explosions didn't just destroy ships. They sterilized entire sectors of space, erasing everything organic down to the molecular level. The swarm couldn't regenerate from nothing, couldn't adapt to complete annihilation. For the first time since the battle began, the red icons on the tactical displays started disappearing faster than new ones appeared. It's working, someone shouted on Wonshik's bridge. The antimatter is working. But victory came at a cost. Antimatter weapons required enormous energy. Human ships began to slow as their power reserves depleted. They became vulnerable, targets for the swarm's counterattack. Hyunwoo led his Marine battalion in a desperate boarding action. The swarm had captured a Vraxian station, converting it into a spawning point for more bioships. If the station wasn't destroyed, it would flood the sector with enemies. Remember your training, Hyunwoo told his Marines as their transport approached the station. The swarm organisms are tough, but they're not invincible. Aim for the neural clusters. Disrupt their connection to the hive mind. They breached the station's hull and entered hell. The interior had been transformed into an organic nightmare. Walls covered with pulsing tissue. Corridors filled with hostile creatures. The Marines fought their way through, their weapons blazing. Hyunwoo took a hit that should have killed him. A swarm warrior's claw tore through his armor and into his chest, but his enhanced biology kept him alive. Redundant organs compensated for the damage. Artificial blood vessels sealed the wound. He kept fighting, his rifle never stopping. That's why we're enhanced, he grunted to a shocked Vraxian soldier fighting beside him. We don't die easy. They reached the station's reactor and planted charges. The explosion would destroy the spawning point and everything in it, including any Marines who didn't escape in time. Everyone out, Hyunwoo ordered. We have 2 minutes. They ran through the organic corridors, the swarm pursuing them with mindless fury. 3 Marines didn't make it. Their names would be remembered, honored, carved into memorials alongside billions of others who had died fighting the swarm. The station exploded behind them as their transport cleared the blast radius. One less spawning point. One small victory in a war of millions of small victories. Communications Officer Soman broadcast human war songs across all frequencies. It was psychological warfare, demoralizing the enemy with humanity's defiant spirit. The songs spoke of heroes who never surrendered, of warriors who fought until their last breath, of a species that had faced extinction 1,000 times and survived every time. The swarm was a hive mind, supposedly emotionless. But even they seemed to hesitate when they heard those songs. Human determination was a weapon in itself. Tactical genius Minjay identified the pattern. "The Swarm Queen is in Sector 12, he announced, studying the flow of enemy movements. "See how all the bioships orient toward that location? They're protecting something. It has to be her." Jehoon studied the tactical display. Sector 12 was deep behind enemy lines, surrounded by millions of bioships. Reaching it would require punching through the heart of the swarm. Ships would die. Thousands of them. But if they killed the Queen, the war would end. "We're going in," Jehoon decided. "Prepare a strike force. Human ships at the front, Fraxian heavy hitters behind us, Dravix fighters for cover. We're going to kill that Queen or die trying." Captain Deho volunteered the Morning Star for the mission. It wasn't a warship, but it was fast and its sensors could help navigate through the chaos. Pilot Guyong would fly escort, her fighter squadron clearing a path. "This is insane," Hana said as they prepared for the assault. "We're a research vessel. We're not built for this." "We're built for discovery," Deho countered. "And we're about to discover if we're brave enough to save the galaxy." He smiled at her. "Besides, we've come this far. Might as well see it through." The strike force launched. 200 ships dove into the swarm like a spear thrust into flesh. Millions of bioships converged on them, trying to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But the Alliance had learned human tactics. They fought with aggression and creativity, constantly adapting, never predictable. Jiang's fighter squadron weaved through enemy fire, their weapons blazing. She led her pilots in maneuvers that defied physics, using human technology to push beyond normal limits. One by one, bioships exploded around them. "We're breaking through," she shouted over the comm. "Keep pushing. Don't stop." The Morning Star's sensors detected the Queen's signature. She was massive, 10 times larger than any other swarm vessel. Her form was grotesque, a bloated thing that pulsed with obscene life. Neural tendrils extended from her body, connecting to every bioship in the sector. She was the heart of the swarm, the mind that controlled billions. Target acquired, Deho reported. "Transmitting coordinates now." Human ships unleashed everything they had. Missiles, energy weapons, antimatter warheads, all focused on a single target. The Queen's shields absorbed the first wave, then the second. But the third wave broke through. The Queen screamed. It wasn't a sound exactly. It was a psychic wave that rippled through the entire battlefield. Every being felt it, a howl of rage and pain and disbelief. The Queen had been supreme for so long, untouchable. Now she was wounded, vulnerable, dying. "Again," Jehoon ordered. "Don't let up. Hit her again!" The second strike obliterated her. The Queen's massive form exploded in a cascade of organic matter and energy. The neural tendrils connecting her to the swarm severed, and across the battlefield millions of bioships went silent. Without the Queen's coordination, the swarm collapsed. Bioships drifted aimlessly or turned on each other. Some fled into deep space. Others simply shut down, floating dead in the void. The hive mind was broken, and the invasion was over. Silence fell across the comm channels. For a moment, nobody spoke. They couldn't believe it. After months of preparation, weeks of fighting, millions of deaths, they had won. Then someone cheered. Then another. Soon the entire fleet was celebrating, voices raised in victory and relief and joy. They had faced the darkness and survived, but the cost had been terrible. Thousands of ships destroyed, billions of people displaced, entire worlds damaged or lost. The galaxy would need years, maybe decades, to recover. Ambassador Yunji met with Admiral Jehoon in the aftermath. They stood on the observation deck of a space station, looking out at the debris field that marked the battle's location. "So much destruction, so much sacrifice. What happens now?" Yunji asked. "Will humanity leave again? Disappear back into the void? Ji-hoon shook his head. No, we tried isolation once. It didn't work. The galaxy is too dangerous for anyone to face alone. He turned to look at her. We propose a permanent alliance. Human technology, Vraxian industry, Keltorian defense, Dravix mobility. Together we'll be stronger than any threat. A permanent alliance, Yoonji repeated. That would change everything. Our entire civilization would be transformed. Yes, Ji-hoon agreed. But isn't that better than extinction? We've proven we can work together. We've proven we can win together. Why go back to being separate and vulnerable? Yoonji considered his words. The old Vraxian Council would have refused, would have clung to their independence, their pride. But the old council was gone, replaced by leaders,